Black History Month took on literal meaning at a nearby grade school today.
Things. Some people get old fast, retire fast, but I like to be doing something.
84-year-old Frank Mann is a truly historic figure. Just some of his accomplishments. He designed his first car when he was 11. He then went on to draft the first design of the Corvette and Buick LeSabre. Howard Hughes called him Mr. Mann and paid for his college. Along with Hughes, Mann designed early airplanes. He also builds steam engines, one of which will soon be on display at the Smithsonian Institute. He also worked on the early space shuttle program.
Figure up something in life that you would like to do, the man that you would like to be, and start working on that today.
And if these students at Meadows Elementary are looking for a role model, Frank Mann gives them plenty to consider.
So pick out a field where they need a leader and be a part of it and accomplish something in life.
Frank Mann, semi-retired now and living in Houston.
What a guy. Gee whiz, that's a lot for one lifetime.
It's a script for a movie. I think it's that man's life.
At the tender age of 9, when most boys are interested in playing, a little boy thought himself a man, and he dreamed of doing great things and making his mark in the world. At that time, he didn't realize that the things he would design and build would change and revolutionize the world. Indeed, they did, and few know of his accomplishments. He did it all against the odds, in a world that would not accept him, a black man, as an equal in a white man's world. Meet Mr. Frank Calvin Mann.
You wouldn't look twice at this auto repair shop near Griggs Road and the old Spanish Trail. It looks like your average motor tune-up place. But look again. Owner Frank Mann's office is a museum. The pictures on display here are testimony to this remarkable 84-year-old man's life. At various times, he's been an inventor, maker of model steam trains, pilot, car designer, NASA researcher, and friend of the legendary Texas billionaire Howard Hughes. They are not the inflated boasts of an old man. They are verifiable. He went to Houston's Wheatley High and Prairie View A&M, among other schools. He said his interest in building things was triggered by a high school girlfriend.
This girlfriend of mine came by in the car with a noted gambler, and I just could not take it. I got in my little car and went for a ride, and when I did, I went out Old South Main, and it had airplane rides, $1. I made up my mind that I was going to give him $1, get up in the airplane, and jump out. I found it so invigorating, I said, this is for me from now on. I started hanging around the airport. They started letting me help them work. I wasn't getting any pay, but I was learning. That's what I wanted to do. And from there on, I started building things and getting things together.
Frank said by hanging around the old South Main Airport, he got to know Howard Hughes.
He used to fly in there quite a bit, and he would have knew who I was because black people at that time had nothing to do with an airplane. And he saw that I was interested in doing work, and I was introduced, and we learned to talk to each other quite often, and then we just got together. So he was actually the financier of the airplane that I built while I was going to Wheatley.
Frank Mann is one of the few people who got to know the reclusive but brilliant Hughes.
They wrote a lot of bad things about Howard that wasn't true. Howard had his hands in an awful lot of things. And if you were not involved in some of the things that he was doing, he didn't have any time to waste to you. Now, they gave him this bad name. He was selfish and all that kind of thing, didn't talk to people too much. He got a very bad rap. Howard was a very, very fine person. If you knew him, to be around him, you would very easily accept him as a brother.
Frank says he was involved in the design of Hughes' famous flying boat, the Spruce Goose.
At that time, the white engineers that he had working for him didn't want no part of me. He brought me the plans and what have you of the Spruce Goose that they were having problems with. I worked them out. They were used, and it made him appreciate me more than ever.
Hughes shocked the world when one day, as he was taxiing the big plane around the Long Beach, California harbor, he decided to take off. Frank Mann says he was aboard.
It was a last-minute thing. They had worked on the airplane, got it ready, and just all at once they were going to fly today.
Frank claims he built the prototype of today's Corvette car. In 1949, a fellow from Walt Disney Studios asked to see him.
Somebody told him about me. He came over, gave me the idea of what he wanted. Then he went to an artist, and the artist gave him an artist's conception, which you see here on the wall. He asked me, could I build it? I told him, yes, I could. So I did.
Frank says he designed the original LeSabre automobile, and somebody stole the design.
It was a complete idea of my own. I just wanted to build a different type of car. And about 6 months after the car was complete and I'd driven it around an awful whole lot, General Motors show came to Los Angeles, and I went to the car show, and I think that somebody around had taken pictures and made copies. They called the original LeSabre, which wasn't.
Among his other inventions was a motorcycle, which later turned out to be a killer bike.
I took a Cushman Eagle, put an Indian Bonneville engine in it, rebuilt the wheels, the forks, and rebuilt the engine, and see the scars in my face are from that motorcycle, plus scars on my body.
How's that?
Well, I wanted to see how fast it would go and what it could do and what I could do on it, and I just couldn't handle it. So a white fellow there in Los Angeles bought it from me after dickered with me for about almost a year. I was just using it for exhibitions. He had it 4 days, and I told him, I can't tell you what to do with something you own, but my advice to you is don't ride it any more than you have to, and don't try to check it for speed. He had it 4 days and killed himself on it.
Frank was one of the first blacks to fly for an airline.
Yes, I worked for a couple of airlines that I was the pilot. This was the day when a lot of people found out, like a flight, if they had a black man flying it, they would cancel flight. So that got me out of that job. Whether the little stewardess stayed on or not, I don't remember, but I did things that I thought was worthwhile. I was sent down to Tuskegee to be the instructor for the black people, but the aircraft that they had there, as far as I was concerned, was not airworthy. I stayed and taught there a short while, and then I left there. That's when I went over to Ethiopia.
He flew scouting missions for Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia until the two had a falling out. Another of Frank's hobbies was designing and building model steam trains. He would take the plans for real engines and mold miniature parts, so the models were authentic copies.
I've tried hard to do things that the average didn't even consider. Now, personally, I say today, I wish more of our people, of my race, would get involved in more than just football, basketball, baseball, these things they look forward to. And there isn't enough teams to hire all the people that want to be involved.
He is thankful that in spite of the many injuries he suffered during his sometimes daring career, he's in pretty good shape.
Not bragging, but it is true. The average man that has been broken up and been in as many accidents and all the kind of things I have is not walking today. And I'm very fortunate and lucky that I'm able to, and I feel like going out here dance. I don't bar anybody out on the floor dancing.
Frank finds comfort in a private kind of religion.
Well, I have my own religion. Now, I don't get on my knees every time I feel like praying. I don't visit the churches. I go occasionally. But my conception of religion is being to the other fellow what you would like for him to be to you. You do what you think is necessary to be the type of man that God could appreciate. And I do say this, that I think God does appreciate me. If he hadn't, would I have been able to do all the things that I did? Would I still be here? Would I still be feeling good? Would I still be playing? No. How many more 84-year-old men do you know that's out there in the street playing at night and having fun? Got young girls fighting over him? That kind of thing. I'm proud of it, believe me.
We believe you, Frank Mann, and in that distant time when St. Peter calls, you'll build him a remote-controlled pearly gates and a better trumpet for Gabriel.
An elderly Southeast Houston man died Sunday after a series of illnesses. The 84-year-old man's death went almost unnoticed, except by those who knew him well and knew that he, in fact, had lived several lives. Frank Mann was a designer of cars, airplanes, and spacecraft, among other things, and Stephen Govain reports.
Wherever there was a band and pretty women, you could find Frank Mann tirelessly dancing. He danced at small clubs or on a big stage. It didn't matter. This was last year in Herman Park when he was 83. 60 years ago, Mann met Howard Hughes, and the two eventually worked together on the famous Spruce Goose. Mann also designed cars, but didn't guard his drawings well. A competitor used one of his designs to make the Corvette. In his Southeast Houston auto mechanics shop last year, Mann told me he had to fight for acceptance because of his color.
I looked at it this way. If I can do more than the average and get the recognition that people are going to accept me for what I've done, not what I am.
Mann also loved trains, but racial barriers once kept him out of a railroad hobbyist club. Mann figured to show the membership that snubbed him that he knew something about trains, so he built this steam locomotive single-handedly. He put it together in 6 months, and when it was finished, he used it to give local kids a ride. Now the Smithsonian Institution wants the train to exhibit.
It's just a terrible loss. It's going to be something that have to be through his death that he'll have to be remembered.
Mann's friends and business partners remembered him, saying he often helped students.
From the Orange Club over there, kids would come over here and he would talk to them, and some kids came here from Germany.
On Sunday, Frank Mann went to a place he often sang about.
Where the whippoorwills call, and he did his die, I hurry to my blue heaven. That's enough of that now. I met Paul Breyer, and when I met him, we got to talking. I've had a lot of men come to me and want to write a life story or something, and I didn't grant it. But Paul kind of got to me. I've given Paul this privilege to do whatever he desired with my life story. Paul's responsible for all of this.